Azolla contains 25 to 35% crude protein by dry weight. Eggs contain 12%, beef 26%, and chicken 31%. Azolla beats them all. It doubles its biomass every 2 to 3 days in any container of still water, with no soil, no fertilizer, no pesticides, no irrigation, and no annual seed purchases. It manufactures its own fertilizer from the air through a symbiotic relationship with nitrogen-fixing cyanobacteria living inside its leaves. A 6 by 4 foot growing bed produces 1 kilogram of feed per day, at less than 1.5 cents per kilogram, making it the cheapest protein source on Earth. So why is it classified as a federal noxious weed? And why has almost no one ever heard of it? Inside each Azolla frond, a hidden partnership quietly powers its explosive growth. Tucked into tiny leaf cavities, clusters of cyanobacteria, specifically Anabaena azolli, work around the clock, transforming nitrogen from the air into ammonia, the essential building block for protein. These cyanobacteria form specialized cells called heterocysts, visible under high magnification as distinctive rings just a few microns across. Here, the enzyme nitrogenase operates at rates measured up to 300 micromoles of ethylene per gram of dry frond per hour, among the highest biological nitrogen fixation rates ever recorded in plants. This internal fertilizer factory means Azolla never needs chemical nitrogen, manure, or even soil. Its only requirements are sunlight, a shallow pool of still water, and a handful of starter culture. Freed from the limits that slow other crops, Azolla can double its biomass every 2 to 3 days, covering a pond or container in a dense, emerald mat. The process is invisible to the naked eye, but under the microscope the evidence is unmistakable. Living chains of cyanobacteria, packed with nitrogenase-rich heterocysts, fueling a protein surge that outpaces eggs, beef, or chicken. The result is a plant that manufactures its own fertility, harvest after harvest, without external input, a cellular engine running on air, light, and water. A shallow plastic tub, 6 by 4 feet, sits filled with still water. No soil, no fertilizer, just sunlight and a scoop of starter Azolla. The setup costs less than $20, and within a week, a dense green mat blankets the surface. Each morning, a simple mesh net lifts out a kilogram of fresh Azolla day after day. The math is relentless. That is 12 grams of protein per kilogram of harvest at a production cost under 1.5 cents per kilogram. To verify the numbers, a dried sample is sent to an independent lab. The analyst runs the classic Kjeldahl test, the same method used in agricultural science for over a century. The certificate comes back. 27% crude protein by dry weight. That is more protein per gram than eggs, beef, or chicken. The data is clear. With basic tools and a handful of fronds, anyone can reproduce these results at home. Long before modern science measured protein by the gram, Azolla's value was already inscribed in the Qimen Yaoshu, a Chinese agricultural manual completed in 540 CE. The text describes Azolla as the fertilizer of paddies, living with rice and multiplying more than 20-fold each year. Its reputation crossed continents and centuries. In his notebooks, Charles Darwin noted a floating fern that seems to suck the air and proliferates rapidly in stagnant water, a clear reference to Azolla's nitrogen-fixing gift. These primary sources, separated by over a millennium and a continent, confirm Azolla's enduring role in the agricultural record. The written evidence leaves little doubt. This tiny fern's partnership with rice is among the oldest documented biofertilizer practices in human history. In a northern Vietnamese village, a retired rice farmer stands beside a clay jar, its lid sealed with wax. Inside, her family's Azolla starter culture has been passed down through 3 generations, a living inheritance. Each spring, she releases the fronds into the flooded paddy, where they spread in hours and cover the water in a green quilt. Buddhist monks once carried Azolla from temple to temple, sharing starter cultures along pilgrimage routes. In some villages, wooden altar idols are draped with fresh Azolla during the annual Leilin Gok festival, celebrating the fern's gift to rice and life. The scale is staggering. At its peak, China's paddies grew Azolla across 1.34 million hectares and Vietnam 400,000 hectares. For these families, Azolla is not a weed or a curiosity. It is a tradition, a festival, and a quiet promise renewed each season. Beneath the Arctic ice, a 20-meter-thick band of fossilized Azolla lies hidden in core samples pulled from the Lomonosov Ridge. These layers, dated to nearly 49 million years ago, tell the story of a planet transformed. For almost a million years, Azolla covered up to 4 million square kilometers of the Arctic Ocean, forming a floating green blanket. As each generation of ferns died and sank, they drew down atmospheric carbon dioxide from about 3,500 parts per million to just 650, triggering a permanent shift to cooler global temperatures. Paleoclimatologist Dr. Alexandra Spielman, who helped analyze the ACEX core, called it the most striking evidence yet of a biological feedback powerful enough to tip the planet's climate. The same fern now classified as a weed once cooled the world, proof that even the smallest plant can wield planetary influence. Azolla's power runs headlong into a legal wall. In 2024, the United States Department of Agriculture added Azolla pinnata to the federal noxious weed list, citing its ability to blanket waterways and disrupt native ecosystems. The law is explicit: buying, selling, or shipping Azolla across state lines without USDA authorization is a federal offense. Yet buried in the Federal Register, a single line carves out an exception. Cultivation in closed, sealed containers for personal or research use remains legal. A United States Department of Agriculture legal analyst describes this as a calculated compromise: protect open water and allow innovation behind closed doors. Meanwhile, the global feed industry, built on soy and corn, moves $200 billion a year. Propped up by seed contracts, fertilizer sales, and chemical inputs, Azolla simply does not need. In Bangladesh and rural Vietnam, small farmers keep growing Azolla in backyard tubs. A Florida homesteader, flagged by regulators, points to the exemption and continues harvesting a kilogram a day for chicken feed. The rules are clear, but the logic is tangled. A zero-cost protein locked out of commerce, thriving only where the law cannot reach. Field ecologist Dr. Helen Carter points to the Murray-Darling Basin in Australia, where unchecked Azolla mats once choked irrigation channels and triggered fish die-offs by depleting oxygen. In the UK, pond surveys found Azolla smothering native plants, but both regions now rely on strict containment, physical barriers, regular harvesting, and phosphorus control to keep growth in check. As Dr. Carter explains, these safeguards mean Azolla's risks are real but manageable. When kept out of open water and grown in sealed tubs, its spread is easily contained. Azolla once cooled the planet and fed empires. Now, it is blocked by law while industries profit, yet in any plastic tub its protein revolution waits. Sometimes the answer is already growing unseen.